A pastor's daughter, pregnant and disowned, is handed over to a centuries-old vampire as punishment for her sin. But when he treats her like royalty instead of a sacrifice, she discovers her bloodline holds an ancient power that could save his dying court or destroy it forever. What would you choose when the monsters who took you in show more humanity than the family who cast you out? Elise Morgan stood in front of her bathroom mirror. The glass had a big crack running down the middle. She stared at the dark circles under her eyes. At 22, she didn't look like herself anymore. Her curly red-brown hair hung limp around her face. Her green eyes, once bright, now looked tired and sad. In the small town of Oak Ridge, people whispered when she walked by. "There goes the Morgan girl," they would say. Such a shame. She could have been something. Elise put her hand on her swollen belly. She was 5 months pregnant now. The baby's father, her boyfriend from college, had left town as soon as she told him. He blocked her phone number and stopped going to classes. At home, her father wouldn't speak to her. He was the town pastor and cared more about what people thought than about his own daughter. For weeks, he only left notes for her or sent messages through her younger sister. Elise spent most of her time alone in her bedroom, which felt like both a safe place and a jail cell. The only place Elise felt free was in the forest behind their house. There, she would sing to herself and her unborn baby. Her voice was beautiful and had once earned her a music school scholarship. Now that was gone too, because of her pregnancy and her father making her stay home to deal with her mistake. One evening, as the sun went down, Elise sat on a fallen tree trunk in the woods. She sang a soft lullaby to her baby. Her clear, sweet voice floated through the trees. "You have a beautiful voice." The deep voice made her jump. A tall man stood in the shadows between the pine trees. As he stepped into the moonlight, Elise saw a face more handsome than any she had ever seen. His skin was very pale, his cheekbones sharp, and his eyes seemed to swallow all the darkness around them. "You're on private property," she said, but didn't sound very sure. "Am I?" His voice had an old-world accent. "These woods have belonged to my family for many years. The Blackwoods." Everyone knew about the empty Blackwood manor deeper in the forest. People said it was haunted. No one had lived there for many years. "That's impossible. The Blackwoods all died long ago." "Not quite." His smile showed teeth that looked too white, too perfect. "I am Alaric Blackwood." Something deep inside her knew he was dangerous, but she didn't feel scared, only curious. "You should go home," he said, looking at her belly. "These woods aren't safe after dark." That night, Elise couldn't sleep. She heard her father talking to someone downstairs in his study. Their voices were low but urgent. She crept down the stairs and put her ear to the door. "Brought shame to our family and our church. I cannot have her here when the baby comes." "There is a way to fix this." The voice was familiar. It was Alaric's. "Remember the old agreement between our families." "That was just a story," her father said sharply. "Was it? Your great-grandfather promised the Blackwoods a bride in return for good fortune. Your apple trees have given fruit for generations because of us." "Those are just old tales." "Then why did you call me here tonight? You know what I am, Pastor Morgan. And you know what you owe." Elise backed away, her heart pounding. When she got back to her room, she found a note under her door in her father's handwriting. "Pack your things. You're leaving tomorrow." At sunrise, her father drove her to the edge of the forest without saying a word. When they stopped, Alaric stepped out from between the trees. "You can't be serious," Elise whispered, holding her small suitcase. Her father wouldn't look at her. "Your sin brought this on yourself. The Blackwoods have claimed you as payment for your shame." Before she could say anything, her father drove away, leaving her alone with the stranger from the woods. "What are you?" she asked, her voice shaking. Alaric held out his hand. Someone who values what your family threw away. With nowhere else to go, Elise took his hand and stepped into the forest. Blackwood Manor appeared through the morning mist like something from an old fairy tale. It was a huge house with tall, twisted towers and colorful glass windows that caught the sunlight. Though the outside looked old, the inside was perfect, filled with fancy old furniture and paintings from hundreds of years ago. "This has been my home for over 300 years, Alaric said as he led her through big hallways, "though I've been away for some time." 300 years? Elise stopped in front of a painting from 1723 that clearly showed Alaric in fancy old clothes. "What are you, really? I think you know." His eyes darkened until they were completely black. "Your family certainly did." "Vampire." She didn't say the word out loud, but they both knew. Elise was surprised to find others living in the mansion, not humans, but others like Alaric. They called themselves the Night Court. Elena, a fierce woman with black hair, took care of Elise, bringing her meals and explaining how the house worked. "You're not a prisoner," Elena said, putting clothes in a closet bigger than Elise's whole bedroom at home. "But you cannot leave. The agreement must be kept." "What agreement?" "Promises made with blood are sacred to our kind. Your ancestor offered the Blackwoods a bride in trade for protection and good crops. Alaric has waited a very long time for you." "For me, specially?" Elena's face softened. "The promise said a daughter with the voice of angels. For many years no Morgan woman had the gift. Until you." Days passed in a strange but peaceful way. Alaric respected her space and never came into her rooms without asking. He arranged for a doctor, a human who worked for the vampires, to check on her pregnancy. To her surprise, everyone in the house treated her with great respect, calling her Lady Morgan. One evening, Alaric invited her to the music room, where a big piano stood under a ceiling painted with stars. "Will you sing for me?" he asked. Something made her want to say yes. As her voice filled the room, the painted stars above began to glow with real light, responding to her song. Alaric watched in wonder. The old books talk about humans with special voices, people from siren families whose songs could make magic in the world. "I'm just a small-town girl who liked to sing in choir," Elise said. "You are much more." He moved slowly, putting his hand near, but not touching, her belly. "And your baby will be special too." That night, Elise had vivid dreams, memories that weren't her own. A young woman in old-fashioned clothes singing by a forest spring. A handsome man watching from the shadows. The same woman, years later, making a desperate deal as sickness threatened her family's land. She woke to find Alaric sitting beside her bed, looking worried. "You were calling out in your sleep," he explained. "Your blood remembers the promise, even if your mind doesn't." Over the next few weeks, Elise fell into a new routine. During daylight, while the vampires rested, she explored the manor's huge library, finding journals that told the story of supernatural beings through the centuries. At night, she would join the others for dinner, though she was the only one who ate food. And afterward, she would sing while Alaric played piano, something he had practiced for hundreds of years. Her pregnancy continued, and her body grew stronger instead of weaker. The doctor was amazed. "Your health is perfect," he said during a checkup, "and the baby is growing better than normal." "Is that strange?" she asked. The doctor looked nervously at Alaric. "The air here, it helps certain family bloodlines." One night, Alaric took her to a hidden room under the manor. A crystal fountain bubbled at its center, the water glowing with soft blue light. "This is the Blackwood Spring," he explained. "Its waters have kept our court alive for centuries, reducing our need for human blood and making our powers stronger." He dipped a silver cup into the water and offered it to her. It won't hurt you or the baby. It will help you both." Carefully, she took a sip. The water tasted like moonlight made liquid, sending a warm tingling through her whole body. The baby kicked strongly, as if responding to the energy. "Our kinds were not always separate," Alaric said quietly. "The old families, Morgans, Blackwoods, and others, we share ancestors from times before written history. Your voice wakes up the magic in these walls because that magic knows you as family." That night, as they walked in the moonlit gardens, his hand brushed against hers, the first time he had touched her. The spark between them couldn't be denied. "I would never hurt you," he said softly, "or your baby. I want you to know that." "Then why am I here? Why keep a promise made hundreds of years ago?" "Because without it, my kind would fade away. We need the old bloodlines, the magic they carry." His eyes reflected the stars above. "And because from the moment I heard you sing, I knew you belonged here." As if agreeing, the baby kicked hard. When Elise gasped and put her hand on her belly, Alaric's eyes widened. "May I?" he asked, his hand hovering uncertainly. She nodded, guiding his cool palm to the spot. When the baby kicked again, the garden around them changed. Flowers suddenly bloomed in the darkness, filling the night air with sweet smells. "The child has power," he whispered. "A bridge between our worlds." Before she could answer, Elena burst into the garden, her face tight with worry. "Hunters," she said. "They've crossed our outer boundary." Alaric's face darkened. "Your father has told others where you are, it seems." The hunters came at dawn, led by Elise's Uncle Robert, her father's brother, and the town sheriff. They carried crosses, wooden stakes, and what looked like blessed weapons. They broke through the outer gates of the manor, while most of the vampires were asleep. Alaric moved Elise to a safe room deep inside the mansion. "Stay here. No one will hurt you." "They're my family," she said. "Are they?" His eyes flashed with anger. "The same family that threw you away?" From her window, Elise watched as Alaric faced the hunting party on the front lawn. Her uncle's voice carried clearly in the morning air. "Let the girl go, monster. We know what you are." "She came by choice," Alaric said, standing calm despite the weapons pointed at him. "Ask her yourself. After whatever spell you've put on her, she's carrying an innocent child." The fight ended without a clear winner. The hunters couldn't get into the deeper parts of the manor, and Alaric refused to use deadly force against Elise's family members. But the attack left everyone in the house upset. That evening, all the vampires gathered in the great hall. Lords and ladies Elise had rarely seen came out of their rooms, their ageless faces serious. "The Morgan family has betrayed us," said Lord Valerian, the oldest vampire of the court. "The promise means nothing if they send hunters to our door." "It wasn't a betrayal," Elise said, stepping forward even though Elena tried to stop her. "My father gave me away because he was ashamed of me, not because he honors any old agreement." Her boldness made the room go quiet. Valerian's eyes narrowed. "Then why should we protect you, or that human child you carry?" "Because I chose to stay," she answered. "And because my child belongs to both worlds." Later that night, Alaric came to her room, looking troubled. "There's something I must tell you," he said. "About my past." He told her his story. Born in 1689 to a rich family, turned into a vampire against his will during a terrible sickness that killed many in Europe. He spent hundreds of years looking for a cure, only to find the prophecy about the Morgan family. The old writings spoke of a voice that could bring back what was lost. "I thought it meant I could become human again, that your family could return me to human form." His fingers traced the cover of an ancient book. "I enforced the promise for selfish reasons." "And now?" she asked. Now I wonder if what was lost was something else. Purpose. Connection. His eyes met hers. The hunters will come back, stronger next time. The court thinks our only choice is to fully change you. Make you one of us. The meaning hung heavy between them. And my baby? The change would likely... He couldn't finish the sentence. Her hand moved protectively over her belly. Then it's not an option. A week later, as she entered her 6th month of pregnancy, Elena burst into Elise's room during daylight, looking very worried. You must come. Now. She led Elise to the hidden room with the glowing spring, now surrounded by members of the court. The water had turned dark red and was bubbling in a scary way. Someone has poisoned the spring, Elena explained. Without it, we cannot survive. Lord Valerian looked accusingly at Elise. Your family did this. The hunters must have put poison in it during their attack. I had nothing to do with this, Elise said. It doesn't matter who did it, said Alaric, coming into the room. Even though it was daytime, he looked weak, with dark veins showing under his pale skin. Without the spring, we'll go back to our worst nature. We won't be able to control our hunger. The meaning was clear. They would become the monsters from scary stories, forced to hunt humans without control. That night, Elise found Alaric in the library, surrounded by ancient books. There's a ritual, he said without looking up. The spring can be cleaned, but it needs a sacrifice. What kind of sacrifice? His eyes, now ringed with red, met hers. Blood freely given by someone who carries both human and magical family lines. My blood, she realized. Yes, but I won't ask that of you or your child. As days passed, the vampires got worse. Tempers flared. Several younger vampires ran away into the night, unable to resist their growing hunger. Those who stayed became thin and sick-looking, their control slipping. Elena brought news that more hunters were gathering in town, including experts from far away. Your father has called a Vatican order. They'll come with fire and silver. Caught between threats, Elise spent hours in the library, searching for other options. In a hidden spot behind a shelf, she found a journal belonging to Maria Morgan, the woman from her dreams, her ancestor who had made the original promise. The last entry read, My voice opened the spring. My blood shall keep it going. This sacrifice I make by choice, not for power, but for love. When she showed the journal to Alaric, he looked pained. Maria was your ancestor, and my first love. She learned what I was but wasn't afraid. When sickness threatened her family's crops, I offered help. But the other vampires demanded payment, a bride from her family line. She agreed, believing her descendants would be treated with honor. What happened to her? She died having a baby. The child, our child, didn't live. His voice broke. I've waited hundreds of years for another Morgan with her gift, not for power, but for a second chance. That night, Elise stood at her window, watching torches moving in the distant forest, hunters coming closer. Behind her, the manor had gone strangely quiet, its residents too weak to do their normal activities. Her choice became terribly clear. She could run away. Elena had made an escape plan. Or she could stay and try the ritual, risking herself and maybe her baby. As if feeling her thoughts, the baby kicked in a rhythm, like an encouraging heartbeat. By midnight, she had decided. Gathering all the vampires in the spring room, she announced, I know how to clean the spring. I'll do the ritual, not because of any promise, but by my own choice. The ritual needed special preparation. Elena helped Elise bathe in oils mixed with herbs from the night garden. She put on a white dress that once belonged to Maria, made bigger to fit over her pregnant belly. At midnight, the weak vampires gathered around the dirty spring. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky as a storm grew, matching the tension inside. Are you sure? Alaric asked one last time, his once strong body now thin and weak. The risk is mine to take, she finished. The ritual began with Elise's song, the lullaby she had been singing in the forest when she first met Alaric. As her voice filled the room, the painted stars on the ceiling began to glow, sending starlight down onto the dark waters. Following the instructions from Maria's journal, Elise pricked her finger with a silver needle and let 7 drops of blood fall into the spring. The water hissed and bubbled, but stayed dark. It's not enough, Lord Valerian said in a rough voice. Because the ritual isn't complete, Elise realized, reading Maria's secret notes more carefully. The blood must be given while singing with the right voice. Understanding flowed through her. She kept singing, her voice rising and falling in patterns that seemed to come from memory deeper than her own mind. As she sang, she put both hands into the dirty water. Pain shot through her arms as the bad water touched her skin, but she didn't pull back. Instead, she sang louder, her voice taking on an otherworldly quality that made the very walls of the manor shake. The doors burst open. Hunters, led by her father and uncle, rushed in with weapons raised. "Step away from my daughter, demons!" her father shouted. Alaric, even in his weak state, stood protectively in front of Elise. She chose this. As the hunters came closer, the spring began to glow, first red, then purple, and finally a bright blue that lit up the entire room. The light pulsed in rhythm with Elise's heartbeat. Her father ran forward, trying to pull her from the spring. "This is crazy. They've put a spell on you." "No, father." Her voice carried a new power. "You gave me away as punishment. They took me in as family." The water around her hands began to clear, the cleaning spreading out from her touch. As the spring returned to its natural blue glow, something amazing happened. The water rose up, wrapping Elise in a liquid cocoon that lifted her gently off the ground. For a moment, everything stood still. Hunters, vampires, even time itself seemed to stop. Then the water soaked into her skin, leaving her dry but deeply changed. Her hair floated around her as if underwater. Her skin gave off a soft glow, and her eyes, when she opened them, shimmered with the same blue light as the spring. "What have you done to her?" her father cried. "Nothing," Alaric answered, wonder in his voice. "She has changed herself." The baby kicked strongly, and Elise laughed, a sound like crystal bells that made flowers grow from the stone floor. "Not just myself. We both have changed." With a wave of her hand, she made the hunters lower their weapons. To everyone's shock, the men obeyed, unable to fight the power in her voice. "You will leave this place," she told them, her words carrying a force that couldn't be ignored. "And you will only remember that I am safe and happy in my new home." One by one, the hunters turned and walked out, all except her father, who seemed partly able to resist her power. "What are you becoming?" he whispered, fear and wonder mixing in his face. "Something that should never have been split apart," she answered. "Not fully human or vampire, but something older than both." When they were alone, the members of the night court came to the spring, now restored to full power. As they drank, their strength returned, but something else had changed. The mindless hunger that had begun to take them over faded, replaced by a clearer connection to their original humanity. "You've given us more than survival," Elena said, eyes bright with feeling. "You've given us balance." Later, in the quiet garden now blooming impossibly under the midnight moon, Alaric knelt before Elise. "I enforced the promise thinking it would save me," he said. "Instead, you have saved us all." She took his hands, guiding them to her belly where the child moved strongly. "Not just you. My child will need a father, someone who understands both sides of her family history." "Her?" His eyes widened. "I can hear her thoughts now." Elise smiled. She's going to have my voice and your strength." 3 months later, as winter changed to an early spring, Elise gave birth to a daughter with red-brown hair and eyes that shifted between green and midnight blue. They named her Maria after her ancestor. On the child's naming day, the court gathered along with people from other supernatural groups, shapeshifters, fairies, and others who had stayed hidden from human eyes for centuries. They came to see the child who showed a new beginning, a bridge between divided worlds. Standing on the manor's balcony with Alaric beside her and their daughter in her arms, Elise looked out at the gathered crowd. Gone was the scared, rejected young woman who had entered the forest that dawn months ago. In her place stood a queen in her own right, not through force, but through change freely chosen. "My father thought he was punishing me," she told Alaric as their daughter cooed up at the stars. "He never realized he was sending me home."